Hello and welcome to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, your weekly dose of the top pro-life news and issues from a Catholic perspective. I'm Catherine Seltner in our Washington, D.C. studio. Here's what you can expect in this show. Pro-life heroes come together at a Catholic university not always known for having a pro-life reputation. The 2018 theme for the March for Life is revealed. We tell you what it is and this.
From that day on, I've just had this commitment to protect children, women and children from violence.
Film producer Jason Jones opens up about why he became involved in the pro-life movement. But first, our top story. It's a great pro-life step. The House of Representatives passes a bill to ban late-term abortion. The House voted Tuesday to pass the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act. This bill would ban abortions at 5 months, which is the point at which unborn babies can feel pain. The pain-capable bill now goes to the Senate, and if it passes, President Donald Trump has said he would sign the pro-life bill into law. Mallory Quigley is the communications director for the Susan B. Anthony list. Mallory, it's so good to have you in studio.
Great to be here as always.
The passage of this bill is no surprise from the House, but now it goes to the Senate. And what are its chances looking like over there?
Absolutely. Well, it's been to the Senate before. Senator Graham introduced this bill previously in 2015, and we got 3 Democrats to vote for it during that vote. So we had Senators Manchin, Donnelly, and Casey all support the legislation. We hope to see more Democrats vote for it this time around. I mean, this is the first big abortion vote since there was the big kerfuffle over Congressman Lujan's comments and Nancy Pelosi's comments earlier this year, which was sort of signaled a bit of a de-icing, if you will, about the role that pro-lifers can or can't play in the Democratic Party. Even Nancy Pelosi was saying we can't kick pro-lifers out of the party. Of course, there was certainly a lot of response from Planned Parenthood and NARAL disagreeing with that and other Democratic Party leaders. But the abortion lobby has such a stronghold on the Democratic Party, and this is going to be a very important issue for some 2018 Democrats who are going to be up next November. So people like Heidi Heitkamp, Claire McCaskill, they certainly don't want to have to vote on this bill, but it's very popular in their states.
I think it is surprising to hear that we could get even more Democrats to vote for this. A lot of pro-lifers are asking, why a ban on late-term abortion? Why are we as pro-lifers not wanting to ban all abortion? Can you speak to that question?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, unfortunately, even among pro-life people, there's not a knowledge that late-term abortions are happening in this country and that you can end the lives of children all the way up to the 9th month. We certainly want to protect all life, but we want to start by having this national conversation about the reality of late-term abortion in this country, the fact that we're only one of 7 nations, including China and North Korea, to allow abortion after this point. It's a huge moment for public education and education campaign to not only educate pro-life people, but to swell those numbers, to get more and more people on board with this idea that we got to start protecting life somewhere, and then we can continue to move back from there. It's certainly not. It's not an arbitrary number. 20 weeks. Like this is on the cusp of viability. It's when there's scientific research showing that babies feel pain, and we can and we will move back as we continue to just get people on board with the idea that babies in the womb, they're just like us, and we need to protect them under the law.
Absolutely. What has the Trump administration signaled on this specific bill?
Well, when he was running for president, he included the pain-capable bill in his letter of 4 pro-life promises, and they just recently, this week in fact, put out a statement of administrative policy. That's the support basically saying, absolutely, we need to do this as a nation, and I will sign this bill as soon as it gets to my desk.
Now we just need the Senate to pass it. Mallory Quigley of the Susan B. Anthony list, thank you.
My pleasure.
While the House of Representatives has passed the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, and that's good news, this won't change anything until the Senate also passes it and President Donald Trump can sign this pro-life bill into law. It is possible for us to soon ban late-term abortions in the United States, but we need to put pressure on the Senate right now. With that, here's this week's call to action. Go to prolifeweekly.com right now on your computer, laptop, or smartphone and tell your senators to support the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act and urge a vote as soon as possible. Simply go to the website and fill out some personal information. This will ensure your pro-life message is sent and heard. Pro-abortion lobbyists are already putting pressure on Congress to vote against this bill, so we need to make sure our senators hear our strong pro-life voice. The U.S. is only one of 7 nations to abort unborn babies for any reason up until birth. This has to end. We need to take the positive step forward and ban late-term abortions. Tell your senators to support and vote on the pain-capable bill. Go to prolifeweekly.com. Turning now to more pro-life news, we go to EWTN's Valeria Longhi for this week's pro-life headlines.
Illinois Governor Bruce Rauner signed a bill into law last week forcing Illinois taxpayers to pay for abortion. This went against his promise to lawmakers and to Chicago Archbishop Blaise Cupich. The Catholic Conference of Illinois says it is deeply disturbed that Governor Rauner has broken his word, and this misguided legislation will force taxpayers to take the life of a defenseless child in the womb. Ireland's Prime Minister announced the country will vote next year on a referendum to lift the constitutional abortion ban in place in the country since 1983. The Eighth Amendment defends the right to life for both child and mother. A bipartisan group of lawmakers introduced legislation to express the dangers of physician-assisted suicide. The bill says assisted suicide puts the most vulnerable of our society at risk of a deadly harm. Ohio Representative Brad Wenstrup, who is also a medical doctor, spearheaded the effort.
It's interesting the approach that we were taking with this on the Hill is that we were including the most vulnerable. We are bringing in the most vulnerable. We do it disability groups. These are the people that say, my life matters, and I will be one of the first that they're going to say, here, take these pills, rather than us trying to help you through.
We caught up with Congressman Wenstrup at a Georgetown University event this week, highlighting the pro-life work of several leaders in the field, including a religious sister, law professor, and pro-life activist. America's oldest Catholic university has caused controversy in the past for hosting talks by pro-abortion advocates, including Planned Parenthood's Cecile Richards and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. The Archdiocese of Washington's Cardinal Donald Worrell gave the keynote speech and tells us what pro-life Catholics should make of the university's event.
I think it's a way of saying that there is a strong voice on this campus that supports human life and wants to defend human life. And I think that's what I saw here. There are those voices on this campus.
Valeria Longhi, EWTN Pro-Life Weekly.
Thank you, Valeria, for those updates. It may only be October, but January's March for Life in Washington, D.C. will be here before you know it. And we now know what the 2018 March for Life theme will be.
Drum roll. This year, I'm excited to announce that the 2018 March for Life theme is Love Saves Lives.
That announcement was made at a Capitol Hill press briefing this week. March for Life President Jeannie Mancini says the theme Love Saves Lives points to how love and sacrifice go hand in hand. And panelists highlighted how love is at the core of the pro-life movement. The 2018 March for Life will take place on Friday, January 19th in Washington, D.C. And we also now know the commencement speaker for the March for Life conference held the day before. It will be Stephanie Gray, the woman whose recent pro-life talk at Google went viral. Take a listen.
It seems generally the people who are inspiring have suffered in some way, or they face some sort of obstacle, or some sort of challenge, or some sort of difficulty. And what sets them apart from those who don't inspire is how they respond to their suffering.
Stephanie Gray's talk at Google centered on what qualities lead us to call someone inspiring and how to link that with how we can dialogue about abortion. We recently spoke with Stephanie Gray from Vancouver and British Columbia, Canada, and asked if she was surprised by the Google invite.
I was surprised initially, but when I looked at the series of presenters that they have brought into their organization, I realized they really do bring in people on the range of the political spectrum. So it was a joy to have the opportunity. And I have to say, the message was very well received. People were quite quiet, actually, very respectful, had insightful questions, but expressed no hostility or anything that I sometimes face on the college campus.
As you mentioned, there have been many other talks at Google, including one from Planned Parenthood President Cecile Richards. Her talk on YouTube, as of this interview, has under 2,000 views. Your talk, which has been up for a shorter period of time, has nearly 100,000 views. What do you make of the comparisons between you two?
Well, you know, I think it's a testimony of the power of God, really, because I put it to prayer and I said, God, if you want this message to go around the internet, you use your almighty power to do so. And I think the reality is Cecile Richards' message is the status quo, whereas the pro-life message is something we're trying to get the culture to embrace. So there's, I think, more enthusiasm, more movement behind getting that message in the public square in order to shift our culture of death to a culture of life.
Do you find that the pro-life message resonates more with people?
I think at the end of the day, the pro-life message does resonate more with people because it's ultimately the message that's written on each of our hearts. That sense we all have intuitively that we ought to put others ahead of ourselves, that we ought to do the right thing even when it's hard. And that was ultimately the message I was communicating, which most aligns with the anti-abortion position to protect the weak and vulnerable and care for them, even when it's difficult for us to do so.
Stephanie, your talk centered around the idea there are 3 qualities that define inspiring people. What was your strategy behind that narrative to discuss the tricky topic of abortion?
You know, coming from the perspective that the truth is written on our hearts, I honestly look at it from this way. Everyone is pro-life, they just don't know it. And so when you communicate through the question of who inspires you and why, what you end up drawing out of people are those fundamental truths written on their heart. As I mentioned, that idea that we should put others ahead of ourselves, that we should do the right thing even when it's hard, and that third principle being that we should have perspective, realizing we can always control our response even when we can't control the situation. And those are 3 qualities inspiring people have that all people, regardless of where they sit, on which side of the fence they sit on when it comes to the abortion debate, all of us can embrace those 3 qualities. So what I wanted to do was tap into that shared perspective, that common ground, and then show how those 3 qualities are best demonstrated through the pro-life perspective, caring for the vulnerable preborn child who needs us, and her dependency heightens our responsibility toward her.
Most Catholics, Stephanie, and most pro-lifers do not work in Catholic or pro-life environments. So what advice might you have for our viewers who want to spread the pro-life message in a compelling way in their workplace?
You know, there's that saying, bloom where you're planted, and I actually think the unsung hero in this whole Talks at Google pro-life presentation is the staff member at Google who initiated the whole process. And he was the one, as a staff member, who just submitted my name because he was familiar with my work and suggested me as a speaker. So here he is in a corporate environment that's non-sectarian, and I think that's an example for everyone listening, wherever you're placed. If you're in the teaching field, the field of social work, the field of medicine, maybe none of those fields, you work in an office, you can always ask a colleague, what do you think about abortion? Did you read that headline in the news? What's your perspective? And get that conversation going. And then if someone thinks, well, I'm not equipped to dialogue with someone, you know, that's where I say, well, my book, in which people can get at loveunleasheslife.com, has all the material they need to know how to have fruitful, effective conversations like the presentation I communicated at Google.
Stephanie Gray, president of Love Unleashes Life, thank you for spreading the pro-life message in such a compelling way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Since we've spoken with Stephanie, the number of YouTube views on her Google Talk continue to rise, now reaching over 100,000. If you read the Washington Post, the Chicago Sun-Times, or the Harrisburg Register, to name a few newspapers, you may have recently stumbled upon an advertisement from the group Catholics for Choice, claiming public funding for abortion is a Catholic social justice value. But our next guest tells us there is nothing Catholic about that. Maureen Ferguson is Senior Policy Advisor for the Catholic Association. She joins us now. Maureen, thanks for being here.
Great to be with you.
You wrote about Catholics for Choice in this ad campaign for the Washington Examiner. Tell us why you say this group's mission is the antithesis of Catholic social justice.
Well, you know, when you see something like Catholics for Choice, when you're riding the metro or opening your morning newspaper, it's a little bit jarring, right? Because what is social justice all about except the dignity of the human person and fighting for the dignity of the human person? So to combine that with fighting for abortion and extinguishing the life of the most vulnerable among us, it's really, I mean, it's an oxymoron. It's really just like a contradiction in terms.
And what dangers are there when we're advocating for abortion specifically for the poor?
Well, I mean, really it's offensive, this ad campaign, when you kind of look at the underlying message to say that somehow we ought to be fighting poverty by eliminating poor children. I mean, that's essentially what they're saying. It's kind of an ugly message, really, instead of addressing the root causes of poverty and really fighting to lift people out of poverty and address their real needs.
Abortion advocates really rally around that term choice. There's one young pro-life YouTuber who tells us that being pro-life does not simply mean being anti-abortion. We spoke with her recently. Let's take a listen to what she told us.
Rhetoric says that if you support abortion, you are supporting choice. But in my experience, women who are being given abortion, they're experiencing immense coercion. And so when I say that I'm pro-choice, what I'm saying is, you know what, I'm truly fighting for women because I am pro-life and because I believe that women deserve better than abortion.
It's true that abortion advocates really co-opted that word, choice.
It's true, and that young woman makes a really good point that, you know, poor women are not out there fighting for more abortion. They don't want to be aborting their children. They're feeling desperate and lacking the resources to care for their child, and that's so often why they end up in an abortion clinic. So if we really want to fight for social justice, we need to be reaching out and helping those women, and of course that's what the Catholic Church has been so good at doing, you know, for 2,000 years, feeding the hungry. And you know, I mean, Catholic charities, if you combine them all around the world, we're the largest charitable organization on the planet.
We're on the front lines helping those women.
That's right, absolutely.
You often hear Catholic Democrat politicians say, I'm personally pro-life, but I think it's the woman's right to choose. What do you make of that?
I mean, honestly, this is sort of a tired excuse that a lot of politicians have used for years. And really, it's kind of lame because if you put that in the context of other issues, you would never say, I'm personally opposed to slavery, but hey, it's up to each state to choose.
Right. You mentioned those Catholics for Choice ads were pretty jarring to maybe Catholic Metro riders reading those. What's the mission behind Catholics for Choice? Have they been at this for how long? Tell us more about it.
I mean, Catholics for Choice, they're really just another abortion advocacy organization. They throw in the word Catholic to kind of get attention and to kind of co-opt the goodness of the Catholic message, really. But I mean, they're just a letterhead organization. They're an abortion group just like any other, essentially. You know, they get funding from somewhere to be running these ads. That was an expensive ad campaign. But, you know, they're just another abortion advocacy group with a pretty ugly message.
Absolutely. Maureen Ferguson of the Catholic Association, thanks for joining us.
Good to be on with you.
When we come back.
I didn't know abortion was legal. And my captain had to explain it to me because I was begging him to call the police.
Film producer, pro-life activist, and Catholic convert Jason Jones joins us for a special and personal interview. Stay tuned as EWTN Pro-Life Weekly continues after this break. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Seltner. Chile used to be a completely pro-life nation, but in August dropped its absolute ban on abortions. The new law permits abortion in cases of rape, endangerment of a mother's life, or in cases when the unborn baby has a life-threatening birth defect. It's been 2 months since the law has taken effect, and already we're seeing examples of heightened pro-abortion rhetoric in the nation, like this one.
Una señora que es violada está obligada a tener el niño porque hay una derecha completamente cavernaria que no admite el aborto. Esa es una estupidez, es una barbaridad.
That's Mario Vargas Llosa, a Peruvian Nobel Literature Award winner, in an interview with Chilean news channel Tele 13. In the interview, Llosa said he thinks Ireland will, like Chile, soon drop its abortion ban. He also called Chile's political right cavemen for opposing abortion for rape victims. The act of rape is one of the most tragic, heinous, and hellish crimes that could happen to anyone. But Mario Vargas Llosa is wrong when he calls anyone who opposes abortion for rape victims a caveman. We, the church especially, need to be a place of help and healing for any and all victims of violence. Our solution should not be more violence on the woman's body. We can and should do much better to help women. And we can do much better for those children because, like their mother, those babies conceived in rape are also innocent victims. That child has a right to life, and destroying a child does not punish the rapist and does not end the woman's trauma. We're not solving any problems by creating more. Abortion is barbaric, not people who oppose it. Lord have mercy on us all. Remember, there is something always that you can do to counter today's culture of death. Tell your senators to support the pain-capable Unborn Child Protection Act and to vote on the bill soon. This would ban late-term abortions. Send your message at prolifeweekly.com. You may know his work on screen, but this week we take you behind the lens and speak with film producer and pro-life activist Jason Jones.
He's not a father, and he's not going to be a father, just like I'm not going to be a mother.
Jones is known to many pro-lifers for his award-winning film, Bella. But in part one of our exclusive interview, Jones opens up about his personal journey to the pro-life movement and eventually to the Catholic Church.
Jason, you have a powerful pro-life witness, one that started as a teenager. You were 16 when you found out your girlfriend was pregnant. What was your response to that news?
Well, yeah, it was a Saturday morning. I was lying in bed and half asleep. And someone was coming up the stairs and sat on my bed. I opened my eyes. It was my high school girlfriend, and she just looked at me and she said, "I'm pregnant." So the two of us, we spent that day trying to figure out what we were going to do. And we were young, and we were naive, and we were idealistic. And so we came up with a plan that I would drop out of high school and join the Army on my birthday, which was 2 days away. And so that's what we did. On my birthday, I went down to the recruiter's office the day after my birthday. And there was a program, and I knew of this program because a friend had gone straight into basic training in the middle of our senior year. It was for troubled youth. And I was last in my class out of 565 kids. So I was confident that I would qualify for this program. Didn't tell anyone about the pregnancy. Went into the Army, was at basic training, and it was on a Sunday morning. I wasn't a Christian, so I didn't go to church. And so when the other soldiers were at church, I would have detail. I was cleaning pots and pans. And a friend came running in and said, "Your girlfriend's on the phone crying." Ran out, answered the phone, and Katie was crying like I never heard anyone in my life cry. And the only way I can explain it to you is that her soul was crying. She just kept saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, it wasn't me." And then her father said, "We know your secret, and your secret's gone." I took Katie to get an abortion. And I didn't know abortion was legal. And my captain had to explain it to me because I was begging him to call the police. And I wish the whole world could see abortion the way that this uneducated, irreligious 17-year-old high school dropout saw abortion. It's just utterly unthinkable.
What message do you have for other post-abortive fathers out there? I mean, this is a journey that you've been dealing with for most of your life.
Yeah, post-abortive men are probably pretty angry. I was angry. I wasn't a Christian. I was an atheist for 13 years in the pro-life movement. And I say, and a lot of the ministries for post-abortive healing are really designed for women. And men and women are different. Men heal through penance. Men heal through work. We have to be honest with ourselves. Threatened, men, we can do these things. We have to assess, what did we really do? What was our real role in this abortion? We have to come to terms with that. And I say we need penance, and we need to work, and we need to serve the pro-life movement. We need to serve our local pregnancy centers. We need to work for legislation that protects the child in the womb from the violence of abortion.
Jason, you are Catholic, but as you mentioned, you used to be atheist, and you were in the pro-life movement as an atheist.
I was on EWTN as an atheist.
For 13 years, and I think the pro-life movement has this reputation for being just conservative, church-going Christians. So during that time period, as an atheist, did you find your beliefs or your non-beliefs at odds with being pro-life?
No. The vision of the human person that I held that allowed me to be repulsed by abortion was the Christian understanding of the human person, which came to me through Western civilization, through the culture that I was born into, right? That we all sort of hold this vague notion that the human person has dignity. Now that's grounded in Christian anthropology. But it would so offend me when people said, you're atheist and you're pro-life, when pro-lifers would say this. I'd say, does it surprise you that I'm against jaywalking and stealing candy bars? No, that's different. Yeah, you're right. Those are really petty crimes. You know, abortion is the intentional destruction of the most vulnerable member of the human family. I don't need to be a Christian to know you don't hurt children. To me, you know, abortion it's ethics 101. I think if there's one rule that we can agree on as a human family, that we protect the most vulnerable members of our family, the human family, from violence. And there is no more vulnerable member of the human family than the child in the womb and oftentimes her struggling mother.
Can you share a little bit about your faith journey, how you did end up becoming Catholic while being involved in the pro-life movement?
After the abortion, I was really looking for a ground to support this vision of the human person. But it was then in reading Freud and Sartre and Nietzsche that really obliterated for me any hope for human dignity that wasn't grounded in revelation. So I became open to studying revealed religions, and I looked at Christianity last. I looked at Islam first.
Wow.
But it was really Sartre that convinced me that the vision of the human person that I was holding was Christian anthropology. Eventually, when Islam didn't satisfy me, I started reading the Jewish scriptures, and my boss, I was chief of staff for a Jewish state rep. We started reading the Jewish scriptures together. It was in Isaiah 53 that I was startled to find Jesus Christ. And then when I read the New Testament, I remember thinking, if this isn't true, it's better than what's true. Started going to an evangelical church. I picked this church because it was the loudest voice for life in my community. So I thought, if they're the loudest voice for life, this must be the true church, the one true church. And it was an evangelical church. But I quickly discovered the church fathers, somehow G.K. Chesterton and Hilaire Belloc. And as so many converts, we kind of all have the same story, that we somehow stumbled across orthodoxy and the church fathers. And I wrestled with becoming Catholic. And I was a secret Catholic for about a year. I assented to the truth of the church, but was praying to God for maybe a way out, a different type of relationship.
What an incredible journey.
We continue our interview with Jason Jones next week and hear the inspiration behind the film Bella and a new project Jones is working on and says is important for pro-life Catholics to know. That's it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. We'd love to hear from you anytime. Send us an email at prolifeweekly@ewtn.com. I look forward to seeing you here again next week. Life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.